This is how I achieve my gorgeous, flawless, long-lasting, airbrushed base skin makeup. That was a mouthful, but here we go. Firstly, I honestly believe skin prep is so important. Like, you don't even need any primers. As long as your skin prep is on point, then your makeup will last, I promise. Recently, I have been absolutely loving the Beauty Crop Peptide Cam Mist. I'd spray my whole face with it. I would go in with the Beauty Crop Wee Shitty Hyaluronic Acid. I want to use the hyaluronic acid on top of like a moist skin already, so using a mist prior will just make it so much more beneficial. Once that's all absorbed, I would then go in with the Peptide Cam Moisturizer by, of course, the Beauty Crop. Last but not least, once again, the Beauty Crop, this is their Vitamin Babe SPF Primer. SPF is the one thing I've not applied, so I'll pop that on now, but I honestly do believe that the more hydrated and prepped your skin is, the longer lasting the makeup will be, and the application will be so much easier. So primers, in my opinion, are really optional. I honestly didn't use primers for the longest time because I actually thought they were a scam. I have kind of went around these primers again, so I'll show you the favourite of mine at the moment. I've been absolutely adoring the Milk Hydro Grip. However, I know this is on the pricier side. A really good dupe for this is the Beauty Crop Wee Shitty. They're literally identical. Other primer I've been loving, the YSL Blurring Primer, and it's got little specks of gold through it, but once again, this is a bit pricey. Actually, the exact same dupe for this would be the Beauty Crop Cocoa Perfecting Gold Primer, and this is honestly like a fraction of the price. I also do believe that primers will depend on what kind of look you're trying to go for and your skin type. If you are prone to pores and if you've got oily skin and if you want to go for a matte look, I would definitely recommend the Pore Filter by the Beauty Crop. This will just fill them pores and make you look smooth, flawless, and it'll definitely control that shine throughout the day. ELF Poreless Putty Primer is another great primer just to smooth out and blur the pores. If you're looking for more of a glowy base, a glowy primer, the one and only that I swear down is the Vive Skin Nova. This stuff is honestly gorgeous. I sometimes wear this by itself. Another very kind of light primer that I've been loving is the Iconic London Underglow Blurring Primer. This kind of smooths out your skin, but not incredibly. It doesn't fill the pores, but just makes you look a wee bit blurred, and it gives you like a really nice glow. If you don't want to go for any primers and don't really have too much skin prep, the only thing I will promise you that you will always need a good moisturizer. So here's some of the moisturizer I like under my makeup. Bobbi Brown Face Base. I have adored this for literally years now. It smells so good, and it just, honestly, it's so lightweight, it's so beautiful under makeup. And this, I never know how to pronounce this, but mine is a bit of a state. This is super lightweight, goes into your skin really quickly, and once again, gorgeous under makeup. Of course, I've already showed you, this is my current favourite for under makeup. Recent discovery that I've been using is the Beauty Crop Graces Faces Hydrating Primer. So this is actually like a primer. It's meant to go under your makeup, it's not really a moisturizer. It's like a 2-in-1, it's like a moisturizing primer. Does that make sense? Once your skin prep, skincare is all dried into your skin, I'm then going to just go in and take my blurring primer and apply a little bit on where I've got the most pores, which is usually just this area here, a bit on my nose, chin, and on my forehead. So with this, you want to press it in rather than rub it in, because you're obviously wanting to fill the pores. So if you're pressing it in, it'll be a bit more effective. And also, if you do struggle with foundation not sticking to your nose as much, I wouldn't recommend putting this on your nose. I'm gonna give that primer to kind of settle into my skin, and meanwhile, I'll go do my brows off camera, and then I'll come back. My eyebrows are all done, so we're gonna go in with the Milk Hydro Grip Primer, just to make sure that that makeup lasts on your face all day and all night long. Want to rub in and then give it like a few minutes or seconds depending on the primer, because all sticky primers are different, to dry in and actually give it time to get tacky. You don't want to go in with foundation on top straight away. Just giving that primer about a minute or so to dry in and get tacky, and look at that. Do you see how sticky it is? This is going to literally act as a glue for your foundation. It'll just make sure that foundation is literally glued to your face. I have tried a load of different foundations, but there's one foundation I have been using religiously since about like 2018, 2019, and I have honestly never looked back. Nothing compares to it, and this is, of course, the one and only NARS Natural Radiant Longwear Foundation. Guys, this is honestly worth the hype. This is worth every single bit of your penny. I sit and suggest you a cheaper alternative, but I just don't think it'll perform anywhere nearly as good as this does. Such a lightweight foundation. You can build it up to be full coverage. You put a little on and just have light coverage. It works on every single skin type. Honestly, like, I don't have a single bad thing to say about this foundation. It lasts ages as well. Even if you don't use any primers, any sticky primers, this will last on your face for the whole night long. The way I usually like to apply is I take a few pumps on a little palette like this. I would then literally just kind of paint it everywhere on my face, just to make sure that I've got enough product all over my face and I've distributed it evenly, because sometimes when you pump it onto your face, the distribution of the product all over your face might not be as equal, might not be as even. Usually when I pump makeup straight onto my face as well, I'll either end up putting too much product or too little product, and I just can't actually gauge if I've got enough on my face. Notice how I didn't put anything under my eyes. Do not put anything under your eyes just yet. I'm taking a little foundation brush. This is the Peaches and Cream PC26. This has been my favourite foundation brush. Peaches and Cream are the best brushes ever. You can use a beauty blender. I'm a bit of a beauty blender hater. I mean, I use them occasionally, don't get me wrong, but I prefer brushes through and through. I think they're just so much more hygienic, they're so much easier, they're so much cleaner. Like with a sponge, you just get your hands dirty. I feel like sponges absorb a lot of the product as well, whereas brushes don't. Tap this into my face. This is the key here. You want to tap, tap, tap. You don't want to be rubbing it, you don't want to be smudging it, you don't want to be dragging it, you just want to be tapping. And then with whatever's left over on the brush, you just kind of want to take that from under your eye and then over your nose, because you don't really want to be putting a lot of product on your nose. But if you've got too much product under your eyes, that's how you get loads of creases, and that's how your under eyes become a bit cakey. I feel like a lot of people don't like doing this, especially if you've just washed your hair, but girl, trust me, put that foundation right up into your hairline. Make sure to take it onto your ears, make sure to take it down your neck, just make sure everything is all nicely blended. This is the part of your makeup which you want to spend the longest on, because even though the foundation looks nice and blended into your face, I would spend another minute or two just tapping it in even more. So the more you press it into your skin, the longer it'll last. So let's just take a minute for this foundation. Like, so even, so beautiful. It's covered all my pores, all my little imperfection, all like I had two little spots here. I can't even see them anymore. Another little tip for you, always do your concealer last. The order I would definitely recommend everyone do their makeup in: foundation, cream bronzer, cream blush, and then concealer. Why, you ask? Because I feel like that way you can be a bit more messy, which makes it a bit more natural look. At the end, you're then going to go in with the concealer and clean everything up. Lancome concealer, this is in the shade 460 as a bronzer. So beautiful. However, yes, I'm aware this can be on the expensive side, so a very good dupe for this. The NYX Can't Stop Won't Stop. This is literally identical to this. Another recommendation I've got for you is the Refi Cream Bronzer, which just looks like this. Another very good alternative for this that I've been loving is the Dull Beauty Give Me Sun, because this is like a fraction of the price. Brush that I would definitely recommend for cream contour is a brush that's kind of dense but fluffy at the same time. So you don't want a brush that's super fluffy. I also wouldn't recommend a brush that's like super dense. It's kind of in between. The Beauty Crop brush, and it's the F212 angled powder, but we're going to use it for cream. Using one out of a pan, you want to dab your brush into it a few times. If you're using a kind of concealer form, you want to take it on a palette or in the back of your hand, work that through your brush, and then apply it to your face, because that way, once again, it's just a distribution. It'd be evener, it's not going to dry in, you're not going to have like a dot on your face in case it dries too quick. I want to be tapping this in. I do not want to see any like rubbing, none of that. Understood? I always start with the forehead and work really close to my hairline and blend it into my hairline as well. You just want to be tapping it in till everything from your brush is pretty much gone. That's when you want to dip in for more. You don't want to keep dipping in after every like tap on the face, because that way you'll end up looking orange and you'll have just too much product on your face. Your cheekbones, you want them to look defined, so you don't want this to be really low down, because that'll just bring your face down. And also you don't want to have it too high up, because you obviously want room for blush, for highlight, for concealer. Really good tip I've got for you to use is put your bronzer in line with your ear. So see where your ear starts, like the top of your ear, follow that line and kind of join it onto your lip corner. Does that make sense? So using an angled brush and just kind of stamp it in line with my ear and stop it here. But if you was to continue it would end with your mouth, but we're not actually taking it to the mouth. Do you know what I'm saying? And this is what's going to give you that lifted effect, because it's still high up but not too high up. Once you've got that mapped out, I literally just go back in with the brush and just tap that in all over. No harsh lines, and we just want to make this look as like natural, as flawless as possible. And I always go in with my foundation brush and clean, well, not really clean it up, but kind of go over the outline of where I've put contour slash bronzer, just to once again make sure it's all blended into the skin. And as previously, you're wanting to tap this the whole time, like you're literally not dragging anything. So if you're dragging, stop. For my nose, I'm not really a big nose contour gal, but what I would usually do is take my brush, like another tap or two into the pan, just do this. Also take it through my eyelids just to give it a bit more kind of definition. Go with my foundation brush and blend in everywhere, and then that'll just kind of make your nose a bit broad. Still see the definition in it, it's just not super structured and super defined, but I feel like this is the most natural way. I'll always also apply some bronzer just under my lip, because that kind of gives the illusion of a bigger bottom lip, because it's like a shadow. When it comes to cream blush, showing my recommendations for both pink and peach. My favorite peach blush is the Rare Beauty liquid blush, and this is in the shade Joy. It's so beautiful. However, obviously this is quite pricey, so pretty much exact same duplicate for this, the Trigwell Cosmetics liquid blush, and this is in the shade Sunset Sally. For pinky blush, I have been loving the Made by Mitchell blush in the shade A Shy Boy. This has been my favorite since literally he came out with his, and I also have been really liking the Plouise cheek of it in the shade Raspberry Ribbon. It's a wee bit darker. I also really like all of the Beauty Bay, let me show show you. Look like this is a Beauty Bay liquid blushes. I've got literally all of the shades and all of the shades are absolutely gorgeous. Take some of this and I like applying it to my little metal palette. This is a Peaches and Cream PC18, and once again you want to be using a brush that's quite dense but fluffy at the same time, but definitely a bit smaller and much more precise this time. Work that through your brush. Keep this very close to your bronzer. This blush is super pigmented. I kind of put the remaining blush of that brush onto the other side and continue blending this out. I've placed down my guide mark of where I'm going to put it, and I'm not going to pick any more product out. I'm just going to focus that now on tapping out the corners and the edges of the blush to make sure it's all blended in. I also like taking this under my eye because I feel like that just makes the blend so much more smooth, and I've said this about a million times. Concealer is going to clean that up, kind of blend it into the bronzer. Sometimes this can overpower the bronzer. What I recommend doing then is going back in with your bronzer brush and kind of bringing back that bronzer, and that will also just create like a very nice ombre effect and make sure the bronzer and blush are blended together. So again guys, if you've not noticed already, you're tapping this, no dragging, no smudging, tapping, tapping, tap. To kind of take this up to my eyelid a bit, I'll take it onto my temples. This is literally going everywhere because I feel like that's what just gives us the most natural look. I'm gonna go back in with my foundation brush and blend the corners and edges of the blush into the skin. And also, if you have went a bit overboard with the blush and you feel like it's a bit too much, tone it down is by going in with your foundation brush and just taking it all over. However, I definitely do have blush blindness. I feel like what I'm wearing now would usually do like 10 times the amount. I just love blush so much. So whatever's left over on the blush brush, I would take some on my nose, my chin, keep alternating that with your foundation brush. It's blended, cohesive, and looks like one. For concealer, Gold But Gold is definitely the Tarte Shape Tape. So full coverage, a little goes such a long way. However, a cheaper alternative for this concealer that I would say is very similar is the H&B Soft Focus Concealer. It's once again really full coverage, still goes a long way. They are quite heavier, they're quite thick concealers, so something that's a bit lighter that I've been loving is the Lancome concealer. This is the same one as I used for the contour, but this is obviously a lighter shade. I've also been really enjoying the Kosas concealer. They're both a bit thinner, they still give really good coverage, blending easier, but just the consistency a little bit different. Like a pot concealer, hands down, this is the only pot concealer I've ever tried that I actually like under my eyes and all over my face. This is a NARS Soft Matte Complete Concealer. This, honestly, I adore so much. It's so, it's not drying, it's not heavy, it blends in so easily, and it just makes your skin airbrushed. Like, all these concealers aren't really the cheapest concealers, but if I ever was to give you one tip of advice on what to spend your money on when it comes to makeup, it's definitely your base product, because I feel like eyeshadows, powder, bronzers, powder, blushes, stuff like that, you get a lot of very cheap dupes. This is where you will see the major difference. Concealer placement. So to put some under your eye, kind of take it down the side of your nose, but you don't want to be applying too much. Not everyone always says if you want a big full coverage flawless base, you're not applying enough makeup, you need to apply more makeup. I do agree with that. However, I would just layer it. You don't want to be going in with loads of concealer, because then if it's too much, you'll just look cakey, it'll crease. I think you're much better applying it in smaller layers and then building it up if needed. To kind of take a line and take it under my eye and drag that out here just to give us that lifted effect. Kind of drag this here and bring it down. A couple of little lines up your forehead, down the bridge of your nose, on your chin, and then a tiny little bit just on your upper lip. Once again, you get the drill. You want to take a small, precise brush that's kind of dense but fluffy at the same time. I've been absolutely adoring this one. Got a bit of an angle to it. Spectrum Collection. This is from the Sculpt collection, and it's the number 11 brush. It's again, want to be tapping in the concealer where you've placed it. You don't want to be taking it anywhere else. You've applied this concealer here, I don't want to see it down here. This is how you're going to get the most coverage out of it, and also the most kind of airbrush look. Once that's kind of blended, it's okay if you've got harsh lines, because then that's where our foundation brush comes in. So I feel like you know where this is going. You want to take your foundation brush and just go over the whole thing, tapping it in. That's just going to make sure all the edges are blended out and everything's nice and seamless. If you feel like a bit of the blush has come off, just take your clean blush brush, and there will be some product left over, I assure you, and you can just tap that over your blush and kind of intensify it back if the foundation brush has kind of toned it down a wee bit. Once I've applied the concealer, if I feel like they look a bit too heavy, I feel like if there's a bit too much concealer, I would then go into the beauty blender and just kind of go over the under. When it comes to setting your face later on, if you've got too much of a wet skin, if you've got too much cream and liquid products on, the powder isn't going to set your skin. It's just going to stick to that like wet, creamy patch of makeup on your face, and it just won't look nice. trust me, you have to be a bit more precise because you really don't want to be taking that concealer in your nose, because that's kind of how you're getting that nose contour effect. And if you like a more of a defined bronzer, I would then take your concealer brush with whatever's left over on it, kind of tap that just under your bronzer contour to just define it a little bit. With a Tarte concealer, just to brighten a little tiny dot here. I'm literally just going to focus in the inner corner. I can tell how much brighter and kind of awake my face is looking now after adding that just tiny little dot. This is a step I've introduced not long ago to my routine, and I think it honestly makes such a difference. Beauty Crop Pore Filter Setting Mist. All my creams that are on my face, I would then go in with this mist and just give my face a nice little... Obviously, once that's dry, I'm going to go in with the powders. What that does is set the creams in place even more and controls the shine, controls the oils coming out through the day even more before we even get to the powder stage. To set in your face, there's two powders that I absolutely adore. One is the Huda Beauty Easy Bake Powder, and I love the shade Banana Bread. This has been my favourite powder for many years now. Beauty Crop Vitamin Babe Powder, and this is in the shade Fair 1. This is literally a fraction of this one, and I genuinely believe they're the same thing. Another really good powder that I absolutely love is a Jordana Tisha. You know the duos? How she's got, I think it's called a Set and Bake. I'm not actually sure what it's called, but she's got a powder and then the loose. They are to die for. Put into the powder like this to make sure it's kind of all evenly covered. And now when you're using a brush, you want to tap off the excess, and if you're using a powder puff, tap the excess off on the back of your hand. You want to be going with that amount of powder. Do you know what I mean, girly? You just want a nice thin layer to set. Make sure all the creases are out of my eye, and once the creases are all gone, actually press into the face. No dragging, tapping. Just disturb the concealer, and that's how you will end up patchy. You also kind of want to take this up here, literally setting everywhere you've applied concealer, and just set my chin, forehead, nose, upper lip. Guys, I completely forgot when I was doing the cream bronzers and blushes, I forgot to recommend you like my favourite product ever. The Made by Mitchell curve cases are honestly unreal, and you get 4 blushes and 4 bronzer shades, and it's only like £30, so you're definitely getting your money's worth for this. Very similar to the blush formula, apart from the fact they're more dewy and more balmy. My powder bronzer, very affordable. Number 1, we've got the Made by Mitchell bronze book. This is honestly unreal because you're getting 12 bronzer shades. It's so good when you go on holiday as well. Once again, the Made by Mitchell. This is the bronze pods. These are baked and they've got a bit more of like a glitter sheen to them. It's such like an old but gold. The Physicians Formula, the butter bronzer, and it literally is just like butter. It's so like smooth. It's just, honestly, I love this bronzer. Big, a little bit dense, but fluffy brush as well. It's got a bit of an angle to it. This is the Peaches and Cream PC03. Make sure my brush is nice and evenly coated. Tap the excess off, and then essentially doing is we're setting concealer with powder, and then we're setting our cream bronzer with powder bronzer, and then we'll be setting our cream blush with powder blush. This definitely makes your makeup last so much longer, and it just intensifies the makeup. It doesn't really make the makeup rub off that easily. I feel like when you powder your whole face, you kind of lose that like dimension. You kind of lose the colours, but this just kind of brings it back to life, and it just stays put. And if it goes over your cream blush, absolutely fine, but drag this, do not smudge this. Always tap tap tap, even if you're doing powder. Then take a little bit of a smaller brush that's a bit more narrow, I believe is the word, and kind of set the cream bronzer on my nose and take up to my eye. If I'm not doing any eyeshadow, I will literally just use bronzer on my eye to kind of make it a bit more defined. Huge tip I will give you all is to always connect your nose contour and your eyeshadow literally right here. I think tying so much nicer, and it'll kind of make you a bit more like cat-eyed almost. If you feel like you kind of went overboard with the powder, bronzer or blush, what I would tone it down personally is by taking a clean powder puff, tapping over it, and I feel like that do the same as your foundation brush would be, but we're not wanting to use a foundation brush anymore to blend stuff out, because obviously now we've just set the face, so it'll just interfere with it. And remember to put that tiny bit of powder bronzer just under your lower lip. Powder blush, I would definitely recommend the Made by Mitchell Blush Book, and this is essentially one of my faves ever because of all the shades you get in there. Don't fancy any of that. The Beauty Bay powder blushes are just equally as good as the Beauty Bay liquid blushes. You get loads of different shades. My personal favourite powder peach blush recently being the Beauty Crop Glow Milked Blush, and this is in the shade Glistening Gardenia. Brush looks like this, and it's quite fluffy. This is the Beauty Bay brush, and it's the number BB105, and you're just going to tap into your blush, tap off the excess, and once again wanting to tap this into the skin. Don't be shy to put this over your bronzer. If you put it over the bronzer, that's how we're going to get a nice kind of blended seamless ombre bronzer to blush kind of effect. Remember to always tap it in, and then if you want to bring it into your cheeks, I would smile and kind of dust it a little over the cheeks. And once again, if needed, I'd go in with your clean powder puff and just go over the edges to make sure it's all diffused and blended into your skin. If you feel like you've kind of taken away a lot of the bronzer there, go back in with your bronzer brush and literally just go over that again, and that should kind of bring that bronzer back a wee bit. With whatever is left over of the brush, I always put some on the tip of my nose and on my chin. Back in with the powder, we're then going to take the powder on your powder puff, the excess off on your hand, and then we're going to kind of set the contour bronzer area. A lot of people tend to bake here. I don't really like baking. I feel like baking makeup look very cakey, and you just don't need that much powder on your face. Do you know what I mean? Don't really think it's necessary. So I still kind of do this step, but I just don't bake. I just press the powder in. You were almost on, but then I would take a really big fluffy brush. This is just a Hannah Martin with Sephora collab, and this is the bronzer brush, I believe, but we're going to use it for powder. You're just going to dip it into your powder like this, tap off the excess, and tap this into your jawline and then drag it down your neck. And this is just going to make sure that your foundation is nice and set on your neck, and it's also blended into your neck, so we're not going to get any foundation lines anywhere. But don't forget your ears. If you're looking at yourself right now and you're like, oh my gosh, I am way too powdery, I've got way too much powder on my face, what do? You need this. The Wee Cherie Hydrating Mist. It's not going to set your makeup, however it's going to kind of bring life back to your face. It's not going to make you look powdery. I've got 3 setting sprays that I'm going to recommend for you. Urban Decay All Nighter Vitamin C Setting Spray. If you're looking for something slightly cheaper, the Beauty Crop with Amelia Olivia Glow Milk Mist Setting Spray. It's bloody amazing. Okay, so we're just gonna spray the whole face. Whilst that is drying, I'm just gonna go off camera and quickly do my eyelashes. Now, I feel like there's definitely a lot of highlights out there that I like, but there's only one that I absolutely love. It'll be the Illamasqua Beyond Powder, and it's in the shade OMG. So just take like a kind of tapered, small, fluffy brush and take this on the brush, and I will literally blend this into the top of my blush just like so. And this highlight literally, it melts into the skin like butter. And I literally just kind of apply this where I normally would on my chin, on my blush. I take some on my nose, on the tip of my nose, and then I apply highlight just above my brow bone, like here. I feel like that's kind of where the light would normally hit you, so that's where you need highlight as well. I feel like a lot of people miss out on that part. So yeah, this is how I achieve my long-lasting, flawless, airbrush looking makeup skin base. I really hope you enjoy, and if you have any other video recommendations, any suggestions, if you'd like to see anything from me in specific, comment and let me know, or you can DM me on Instagram or TikTok. I would absolutely adore any love on this video if you could like, comment, honestly anything will make me so happy. Whenever I see I got a like, or whenever I see a new like subscriber, I'm like, oh my god. Just because YouTube is still like so YouTubey, so I get literally so happy over the tiniest things. So I honestly appreciate every single one of you. I think that we've got like 33 subscribers so far. I love you all, guys.